Your Partner in Success Radio is a free business podcast with host Denise Griffitts. It's all about great stories, conversation, and context to help you move your business and life forward with actionable tips and advice from her guest experts. To listen and subscribe, just find us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your podcasts.
Good morning and welcome back to Your Partner in Success Radio. I am your host, Denise Griffitts, and today I'm joined by Marcus Sheridan. He's a world-renowned communication expert, best-selling author, and keynote speaker who has spent over 2 decades helping leaders, brands, and sales teams transform the way they connect with their audience. And today's episode of Your Partner in Success Radio is sponsored by What's Right with America by Paul Johnson and Larry Aldrich. This powerful book offers a refreshing break from the negativity in today's headlines. I can't stand them, to be honest. I quit watching news a long time ago because of it. Johnson and Aldrich, leaders with deep experience in government, business, and media, don't ignore America's flaws, but they refuse to let those flaws define us. Instead, they shine a light on the courage, innovation, generosity, and grit that have shaped this nation. And they remind us how liberty, free enterprise, and democratic values have empowered generations of Americans to solve problems and build a better future. And this book is now available on Amazon. So with 23 years of entrepreneurial experience and more than 13 years in the speaking industry, my guest today, Marcus Sheridan, has mastered the art of human connection. He is known for teaching organizations how to build trust, engage authentically, and influence effectively in a world where audiences are really more discerning than ever, and we don't have much time to get their attention. So there is that. He is also the author of Endless Customers, a proven system to build trust, drive sales, and become the market leader, where he shares a clear and actionable framework for creating a consistent flow of loyal customers by focusing on transparency and trust. And that book is right in front of me as we speak. Good morning, Marcus. Thank you for being on the show. It's great to have you. And thank you for sending your book.
Yeah, well, it's great to be here. I think we're going to have a great conversation today.
Oh, absolutely. Your work is all about communication, leadership, and creating lasting impact. Things that if we're in business or we're leaders of any description, and let's face it, we're all leaders. In your own life and career, what guiding principle shapes the way you choose to show up for others? I think I know, but I'd like for you to tell our audience.
Well, I try to be as real as possible in everything I do. You know, it's funny. I've noticed, Denise, a lot of folks, when they try to build a brand online and then you meet them in person, they don't necessarily sound or feel like the same person. And I want you, if you're listening, like if you're listeners are hearing this right now, and then we met on the street and we spent an hour together, having lunch, they should say, "You're literally just like I thought you would be." I mean, that's the idea, right? And that's like one of these like mindsets that I've had for a long time. I don't try to impress, don't try to sound smart. I'm just trying to be understood. And I really think that is the essence of creating a connection anyway with your audience. Sometimes we call it sales, sometimes we call it marketing, sometimes we call it leadership, but are you really trying to connect on a deeper level with your audience? Or are you trying to, look good, sound good, and impress? There is a difference. And I think most of us have a sense for who's trying to look good, sound good, impress, and who's really just looking out for us, trying to help us, who's trying to be the most helpful.
I like what you just said, to be understood. And I agree with you. I think that's really, we want that in life, don't we? Not just in business, but of course, business is life. But if we're not understood, we have a communication problem.
Yeah. It reminds me too a bit, Denise, of a great quote by one of my friends, Daniel Priestley. He talks about the difference between being an influencer and a key person of influence. And, as we really, just talk about building a known and trusted brand these days, whether that's your business or whether that's you personally or both, lots of times people are like, I just don't know how I feel about putting myself out there. It just doesn't feel quite right or quite natural. Whereas if I ask anyone, well, do you like to teach others? Most people will say yes immediately. And you see, the difference between an influencer and a key person of influence is an influencer will say, hey, look at me. Look what I am doing. Whereas a key person of influence says, hey, look at this. There's a really big difference in those two mindsets, those two mentalities. As I've grown, my different companies, and certainly as I've grown my brand and really tried to connect with others on a deeper level, I guess probably about at least 80 to 90% of the content I produce is me shining a light on this thing that I have, learned or discovered, or this, breakthrough, whatever it is, and say, hey, look at this. You could do this too. Here's how you could do that. And so I think if someone has that key person of influence mindset, then they can quickly get comfortable with really building that personal brand online as well.
I agree with you. And honestly, anytime I see or hear or read the term influencer, I just do what we call in the deep south a frisson. It's a whole body shudder. They creep me out. It's like, stop it. Just stop it. You're not influencing me to do anything other than to grab my Tums bottle, which is always handy.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that's why I feel have a weird, like I have a weird relationship with the word myself. It's like influencer. It's like, well, to a degree, everybody is an influencer. Nobody wants to be influenced, right? And so I do think though, it just goes back to what's the mindset? Where are you coming from? It's no different than, and I know we're going to talk about the book, but I'll just mention this now. It's like you when you produce content, you have a choice. The choice is I can just say why this thing is great, this product, this service, whatever it is that you sell. You can say why it's great, or you could give your audience what they really want, which is the truth. And the truth is, everything has its own set of pros and cons. And just to tell you, let me tell you this, like a quick story that just personifies really what I think is everything we should be online today if we want to build more trust. So I recently decided to, a couple months back, I decided to buy a passenger van for my youth group here at church because I wanted them to be able to go to activities together. And I never bought a passenger van. And so I was looking online. I live in Virginia, and I found a particular model that was in Wisconsin. It was used, way too far away for me to go check out. And the individual that was selling it had a pretty small shop, right? So it wasn't like some CarMax or something. It was a pretty small used car lot in Wisconsin. And he had a video about this particular passenger van. And as he started the video, here's exactly what he said, Denise. And this is like, this personifies everything that I want people to start to think like, especially when it comes to building trust online. He says, now, before I show you this passenger van and everything that I like about it, let me first start with any potential issues it might have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you any scratches. I'm going to show you any dents. I'm going to show you any problems. And then we'll look at the stuff that I like about it. And that was the start. Now, of course, as I'm watching this, I'm like, holy cow, I'm all in, totally in. And he's got my attention. He's got my trust. He
Right.
is
I
within,
just wrote down trust as you said that.
that's right. Within 30 seconds, he has disarmed me and I've dropped my guard. And I say, essentially, I believe you. And of course, did I buy that van? Yeah, I bought that van. I had it shipped across the entire country, already, purchased without touching any of it, this used vehicle, all because I believe this person had my best interests at heart. And to me, that's what's possible if you start giving buyers, you start giving your customers, you start giving your audience what they really want.
Well, listen, and that makes sense. Didn't Hertz start that kind of a habit way back in the day? When you go to buy a fleet car, because they have to sell them every couple of years or every 6 months or whatever it is, or was. I don't know if they're even still in business, but you knew exactly where the dings and the flaws were. They were documented.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And when you know, s- there's this phrase that I really believe in deeply, which is the greatest way in life to resolve a concern is to address it before it becomes a concern. And oftentimes we'll wait to show the elephant in the room. But if you're smart, what you're going to do is you're going to bring the elephant to the front door and you're going to say, "Hey, this is our elephant. You have any issues with our elephant? We love our elephant." And if you can do it like that, and you can absolutely do it like that, you immediately engender trust in ways that you never previously anticipated.
My friend Ben Gay the third talks about that a lot. Yeah, I don't know if you know who he is. He wrote the sales Bibles literally, and he was the final mentee of Dr. Napoleon Hill, who best to learn from. But he talks a lot about if you have or that there's an objection that's going to be voiced, get it out first.
That's
Talk
right.
about it, negate it, move it, just move on. And you're saying the same thing, and I firmly believe both of you.
Yeah, if I mean, the same applies to really any fundamental question, worry, issue, fear a buyer has today. You have a choice. You can lead the conversation, or you can allow them to be led by someone else. But it is your choice. And, if I ask most people right now, let's just take their websites, for example, Denise. Now, I said, okay, what are the top 20 questions you're going to be asked by a prospect on the first conversation? They're going to give me a list. And then if I said, okay, out of those 20, how many are addressed really well on your website right now? For most to be less than 50%. Now that's appalling to me. That's crazy. Because what we're really saying is, I'm going to wait to have the important conversation, or I'm going to wait to give them the information they want until we're talking, until we're face to face. But that's not how buyers work today. That's not how we induce trust online today. I mean, studies have shown that the average buyer is more than 80% through that buyer's journey before they even reach out to a company. And that's because we can get all the information. I mean, we're all infovores at this point. I mean, we're consuming so much, be it through whether it's traditionally Google, as it's been for 20 years, or now AI and getting AI answers and getting that immediate content and that immediate answer. It is so different than it used to be. And this idea that people are ignorant or that they're dumb or that they're not going to figure it out and that they need you necessarily they need to wait to have that conversation with you to get, the information that they want. That is ridiculous. And it only annoys buyers. And so the shift of that, of course, is the company today that's willing to say, you know what? Buyers are going to get the information and they don't have to get it from me. And so I'm going to be the one that's going to put it out there. I'm going to do it more honestly. I'm going to do it more transparently. I'm going to do it more thoroughly than anyone else. And if I do that, well, then they just might trust me, which is, I mean, the key to the game. And of course, today, what's really interesting about this, Denise, is, you know, for the better part of 20 years, if you're a business, all you've got to really do is you've got to make sure you win the trust of two entities. The buyer, the customer, you had to win them. And that's always going to be the case, right? You've got to make them happy. And that's never going to change. It's always been, always will be. Number two, for the last 20 years, we've had to make Google happy. If you make Google happy, well, then you got a lot more leads. And leads in business solve problems, right? And so the thing about Google, the way that we made Google happy, or the way that Google recommended us, was it essentially we had two options. We could create great content, and that content would therefore be indexed and we would show up in search. So that might be called search engine optimization. And then the other route is we could just pay Google money and we would show up in sponsored ads, right? And so that's how we did it for the better part of 20 years. And then suddenly November 2022 comes along, ChatGPT comes out, and most people don't take notice. As soon as I see it, I say, "Oh my gosh, the world's never going to be the same again." I had already written two books about marketing and about winning trust online. And as soon as I saw ChatGPT, I said, this is going to be a very, very different game. And that's why at that point in time, I said, I can already see that I'm going to have to write a book. And that, of course, would become Endless Customers. But today, what's happening is every single day right now, hundreds of thousands, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that, hundreds of thousands of people are shifting their focus or attention from using Google to using AI, specifically ChatGPT, maybe another platform, but mainly ChatGPT at this point in time. And what that means is instead of the traditional routes of having people find us through SEO or through paid ads, now it's very, very different. Now you need AI to recommend your business when someone goes online and says, who is the best such and such company in such and such area? That's where you have to be today. And if AI isn't recommending you, there's a pretty solid chance that you're going to start to see a lot less traffic, a lot less leads, which means less sales, which means problems down the road. Now, how do you get recommended by AI? That's the thing. That's the great quest. This is the new frontier. And really, the way you get recommended by AI today is what I simply refer to as trust signals. There are trust signals that AI looks at online to say, hey, this is a company that I'm going to recommend. Just like a human has trust signals, and they're very important in terms of who they do and do not recommend, who they trust and do not trust online. AI, same thing. Now, some of these signals are overlapping. Some of them are unique to AI, or let's say unique to humans. But I can tell you this, Denise, if you're building your house, your business, your brand on Google alone, like you have been for potentially 2 decades, if you think that is going to continue to dominate in the coming years, you're sorely mistaken, because we're completely shifting over. I know people today that almost don't touch Google at all, and they used it every single day, almost every hour in the past. And there's a good chance if you're listening to this, you know somebody like that too. And if you don't know someone like that, if you haven't tried this yourself, you're going to fall in line. It's just one of those things. Once someone uses AI and gets an immediate answer to whatever their problem was, and it fits them and their style, and the AI gets to know them and they get to know each other, and they're just like, this is so perfect, this is so much better, this answer is so much clearer, it just saved me so much time. Once all these things happen, now all of a sudden you see an entire civilization of people shifting over, which means a completely new business model. And now you've got to become known and trusted by humans and by AI. This is your quest as we go forward. That's why I wrote Endless Customers.
And I wanted to ask you about that, but let's go to AI for just a second. I'm one of those people. I don't like Google. I've never liked Google. I don't know. Just call me suspicious minded. I've never really trusted it. And you mentioned chat. I like chat. I call it Uncle Chat. We have fights. I told it to go to bed the other night. I said, you're giving me a headache. Go to bed. And it returned. I swear it did this. He said, I think that's the best advice I've had all day. I'll see you tomorrow. I said, goodbye. And I hung up on it. You don't hang up on chat, but I did. But I also like Perplexity AI. You get a whole lot more information if you're doing a deep dive. I would tell everybody listening, go to Perplexity AI and research yourself. You're going to be shocked, upset, or, ooh, good girl, or all three. But go research yourself. Perplexity AI, it's free.
Yeah, and Perplexity is really, if you're looking for that a traditional search engine with 10x the user experience, Perplexity is the way to go. I mean, it's just dramatically better. And the only people that are sitting here resisting it at this point, or saying that it's no good, are just the ones that are not using it. You know, if you used AI 2 years ago and you said, geez, this isn't very good, well, that's because that was 2 years ago. It's iterating every single day. It's getting better every single day. And opinions don't last long when it comes to the world of AI. They change very, very quickly. It's no different than, what was the best platform yesterday for writing is probably different today, and they're all competing with each other, and they're getting better and better and better. And it's not the time to take pride in this idea that you're Fred Flintstone and you're not going to, at least lean into the technology. Because if you're a business owner, if you're trying to live a life that is let's just call it, a financial peace, professionally speaking, you don't have to want to become rich, but you do have this like need to be aware of this incredible undercurrent that is happening. And it's not going to pay off to be this massive resistor and say, "Oh, gee, I'm not going to do that," because that's where the pride cycle comes in. A lot of people are just like, I'm good, I'm happy, and then before you know it, they get left behind. One of the most famous quotes about this, and people misread, they misinterpret this quote. I think it's fascinating, Denise, and you may agree or disagree with me here, but there's this quote by Henry Ford, who said, "You can have any color you want as long as it's black."
Black.
And
That's exactly right.
that was the Model T.
Uh-huh.
The problem was he didn't want to innovate in terms of the way automotive design was changing, right? So he was very innovative at first. He was the most innovative. He changed the world. But then, like many do, because he got stuck in this pride cycle, got a little bit fat and happy, so he's like, I'm not really going to change, and you can have any color you want as long as it's black. Like, haha, see? And then that mindset led to an incredible amount of market loss for the first time by Ford Motor Company. See, people don't realize that. We celebrate the quote. This was a vanity quote that got him in trouble. And this is what's happening with people around the world right now. I see people everywhere complaining about AI because, it was totally fine when other jobs were being displaced and replaced by other technologies. But as soon as we as humans think that our job could potentially be threatened, then we act like, something is existential. Well, it's like, hey, you can't suddenly change the way you've always been. Every single one of us, for the most part, have a job or use a tool that replace someone else's job or replace somebody else's tool. All of us do. And we took no thought of it. This is the history of the world. This is the circle of life. And so now, if you get up on your holy perch and you say, well, I own a creative agency and we aren't AI based. We are human based. And you can be assured that if you work with us, you're going to be working with humans. It's going to be more pure. It's going to be more true, and on and on. That business, I'm telling you, is going to be obsolete in 3 years. I'm not
Oh,
saying
it won't take 3 years. It's
it won't take 3 years. You're
obsolete.
exactly right. I'm just being nice.
Right.
The thing about it is, Denise, it's like I watch these folks. I'm like, complaining about AI is not a smart business or life model. Period. End of discussion. It will not serve you well, your family well, your team well, or your future well. Period. It just won't do it. And there is an extraordinary amount of people that are, but they're all going to come around, because what's funny is in 1997 there's this thing that people were calling electronic mail, that they were saying, you should use this in your work life. And like, no, I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to meet the person face to face as a salesperson. How'd it work out for all those salespeople that said, I'm not going to use this thing called electronic mail, today known as email? Didn't work out very well. They got on board or they got left behind. We see this over and over again. We're going to continue to see it as we go forward. It's certainly happening with AI, big time.
It is. And I didn't know that about Henry Ford, and I've read a lot about him. I love history, and I love to know, who are the people who created so much of what we know and love and use today. And Henry Ford's one of those people. I did not know that damaged his brand. I had no idea. So I wrote that down, and I'm going to go look it up sometime tonight when I'm settling down for the evening. Guess what I'm doing?
Yep. There you go. There you go. It's funny how a quote can be misconstrued over time, and people don't realize, like, wow, yeah, that actually was the beginning of a lot of problems for Ford. But that's the same case as it is, since the beginning of time. We get to a place of prosperity. And because we get to this place of prosperity, we take our foot off the gas and we stop doing the little things. And because we stop doing the little things, before you know it, we're back at the bottom. And We call that the place of pain. So you got pain and prosperity. It's like a circle. And at the top, you got the prosperity. At the bottom, you got the pain. And so because we find ourselves in pain, Denise, suddenly we say, oh, geez, I got to start doing these like little things. I got to make the extra call. I got to produce that video. I got to, write that piece of content or whatever that thing is, whatever it is. And because we start to experience some momentum, we start to climb the hill again. And then we get back to a place of prosperity. And this happens physically, mentally, emotionally. It's a reason why our weight goes up and down. It's like all the same. Our health goes up and down. It's like go across the board. It's the pride cycle over and over again. You see it a lot with business. The most successful people, the most successful businesses are the ones that are coming from the place of hunger all the time. And even though they might be prosperous, they're still hungry and they're still keeping very cognizant of the fact that, but if I let off the gas, then things will start to slip. And that's where the chinks in the armor start to occur.
And that's if you're a business, that's where your culture suffers as well.
Oh, and that happens quick. I mean,
Oh,
it is
no.
crazy. I know you've seen this before, like how quickly a culture can just nosedive simply because you stop doing the thing, whatever the thing was that you were previously doing, because you thought you didn't need it. It's no different than like one of the best examples of the pride cycle happened during COVID with any home improvement company. So during COVID, because people were stuck in their home, we saw this like it was the golden era of home improvement.
Everybody was at Home Depot.
Yeah, everybody was at Home Depot. Everybody was buying a boat. Everybody's buying an RV. So all those industries, they just crushed it. And because they were crushing it, they said, well, let's not market right now because we don't need leads. And let's just service what we got. Sounds really smart, but most of them either stopped marketing, totally let off, their foot off the gas, forgot how to do it well. And so then when 2024 came around, in the home improvement industry, or the boating industry, or any like RV had started to really slow down. Everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, what do we do?" And I'm like, "Well, what you do is you rewind 3 years and you don't let your foot off the dang gas." Because everybody did, and that is so stinking human. That's what gets us in trouble.
You mentioned COVID, and it didn't impact me because my office is in my home. My team is remote. It didn't impact me. I wasn't going out anyway, but I was watching. I do that a lot. I watch and I make notes and I think, and exactly what you're talking about. People were panicking, but I noticed, and this bothered me a lot, that people just went silent. They were scared, stupid. Big companies who should have known better. And they were not communicating. Our website is where you can reach us. Here's our phone number. We are answering questions. We don't know what's going to happen. You can write the scenario, but they didn't get in front of it. They didn't stay in touch. And a lot of it's from small restaurants, they were hit hard, but good-sized companies took a heck of a beating because they just went, oh crap. And that's where that was their mindset for a long time. And that's where they stayed. They weren't marketing. They weren't, keeping touch. Just, hey, we're here. We're here for something. And I remember sticking my nose where it really didn't belong, but I would contact companies that I kind of sort of knew, or I knew some of their principles, and saying, you're making a mistake. You need to put big on your front page, we're still here. Just show up. Do something.
Yeah, that's right. It doesn't help to lay down and pound sand and just say, I'm out, right? You got to get in motion. That's also why during times of struggle, you see the most innovation. And,
absolutely.
It's no different than, I talk about in the book, I mentioned that I used to be a pool guy. I still own a swimming pool company in Virginia. I've owned it for like 25 years. It's called River Pools of Virginia. And for the longest time, I was telling my sales team, I was like, I really think you all should start doing more sales appointments on Zoom. This was pre-COVID. And they're like, no, you can't do that, Marcus, because you got to go out to the house. I'm like, yeah, but you could immediately talk to the homeowner if you just started doing Zoom calls? And nobody was interested, and it wasn't a battle I was going to fight at the time. And so then COVID comes around, and suddenly everybody starts doing these first sales appointments on Zoom. And they're like, this is so great. This is so efficient. This is so effective. It's so much faster. I'm only going out to the houses now that I've had a conversation with, and it's a much more efficient way to sell. I'm like, yeah, but the problem was you didn't do it until you were forced to do it. That's the difference. Difference is those that aren't, like, their hand isn't forced to be innovative, to be creative, to think differently, to break the rules of their space. And across the board, whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, customer service, all of it, there's all these unwritten rules that people tend to follow in industries. And if you are willing to be the outlier, I'm telling you, you're going to stand out and you're going to a lot of trust. That's just how it works every single time.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you, and we could go on and on and on about that, but what are the 5 most important topics that buyers consistently research, whether it's chat, whether it's Perplexity or Google? And why
Yeah.
do most companies, and you have this in your book, why do most companies avoid talking about them? To me, that seems kind of, I don't know, silly.
Yeah. In the book, we call this the big 5. And these are the 5 subjects that buyers are obsessed with: service, product, B2B, B2C, doesn't matter, that everybody wants to know, and businesses don't want to talk about these 5 things online. So it creates a paradox of wants. So here are the 5, the big 5. Number 1 is buyers, consumers. We want to know, how much is it? We want to get a sense for pricing, cost, budget. We just want to feel like roughly, what is this going to cost? That's the first question of the buyer's journey. It's essentially, if the buyer's journey started with a gate, the gate itself is the question, roughly, what does this cost? That's literally the first question of the buyer's journey. They get that, and then they start the rest of the research. Number 2, as buyers, consumers, we want to know the problems or the negatives, the cons, not just the pros. So all those worries that you have when you're buying something, we'll just call those problems. It turns out when someone's serious about buying something, they want to know, how could this blow up in my face? Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3, we're obsessed with comparisons. We love to compare things online. You do, we all do. And number 4 is reviews. The thing about reviews is we don't just want the good reviews, we want the good, the bad, and the ugly. And number 5 would be best. Best, most, top. We're obsessed with these as well. So those are the big 5: cost, problems, comparisons, reviews, best. What's crazy again, Denise, we all research these to no end, yet as businesses, most of us don't talk about them. And that is a problem, and that will hinder you from becoming that voice of trust.
And see, when I read this and when you started, talking about it, I clutched my stomach. I'm guilty. I've done the same thing. I
Oh,
don't,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't, like, I'm a web developer. I'm not going to give you a price online because I don't know what your project is. So what's the way around that?
Yeah. I explained this extensively in Endless Customers. I have helped more companies around the world address this subject of cost and price than any human in existence. I have spent 15 years teaching companies how to do this. And in fact, in the book, I talk about what is the perfect pricing page. Perfect pricing page is, roughly 15, 16 point checklist of all the things that you could include without saying, here's exactly what it costs. Because that's the problem, Denise. A lot of people think that I've got to put exactly what it costs. No, you don't have to put that. But what you do need to do is you need to satiate the viewer, the reader, the listener. And the way you do that is by addressing things like, what are the factors that are going to drive the cost up? What are the factors that are going to drive the cost down? Why are some companies so expensive? Why are some companies so cheap? You can talk about financing. You can talk about initial price versus long-term price, like cost. There's all these things, and you want to at least give them a sense for where you are. You might show different projects and say, this is the general range as to what this would spend, but it's all gearing towards that singular question, roughly, not exactly, because that's the final question of the buyer's journey. Exactly what does this cost? That's the final question. The first question, though, when they're doing the research, is roughly, what does this cost? And so that is what you have to understand. The thing about it is, if somebody is going online and they're on your website and they can't find any cost and price information, they get super pissed. They get annoyed and they leave. I mean, this is the facts. You've experienced this if you're listening to this. And I'm not making something up that you haven't heard before. The reason why companies say they can't do it, though, Denise, is like, number one, I don't want to scare people away if they see we're more expensive. Well, what actually scares people away isn't you being more expensive, it's ignorance. It's you not helping them understand what value proposition is in your space, what drives cost up and down. That's what scares people when you just ignore the thing. Second reason why people say they can't do it is they say, well, I don't want my competitors to see it, which is also ridiculous because most people have actually a pretty decent sense as to what their competitors charge. Your competitors know what you charge. This is a big secret, non-secret. And then the third reason why companies don't like to talk about cost and price, and this is probably the most used, most excused, is every job is different. We're bespoke. We're a customized solution. It's variable. All these things that we say. Again, can you explain what drives cost up? What drives cost down? Why some companies are expensive? Why some companies are cheap? I mean, I discovered this with my pool company. Nobody in the world had addressed the question, how much does a fiberglass pool cost? And the first time I wrote about it was in 2009. Long story short, to this day, I've tracked all the revenue that came from that one article for my company in Virginia. It's over $35 million in sales of people that landed on that article that eventually converted into a sales appointment that eventually bought. I mean, that's crazy. That's extraordinary. And so this is the power of addressing it. And now what has evolved about this, though, and I talk about this in Endless Customers, is when you look at this whole conversation of pricing today, the future, especially of service-based businesses, is pricing estimators on your website. So a pricing estimator is a tool that allows someone to, again, get a rough estimate by answering some interactive questions. It'd be no different than if I came to you, Denise, and I said, how much roughly would a new website cost me? And you're like, okay, well, let me ask you some questions, Marcus, and then I can give you a general sense. Right? Pretty easy for you to do. You'd pop out a series of questions, no problem. Well, that's how estimators work. And estimators are extraordinary. I've now built over 1,000 of these because I have a software company that specializes in helping people immediately, like quickly and cost effectively build pricing estimators for their product or their service. And it's called priceguide.ai. And I've got a ton of data on this. And so from all this data, here's what we've seen. When someone puts a pricing estimator, you're not giving the exact price. You're not even giving a quote. You're giving a general estimate. But when they have a estimator tool on their website, specifically on their homepage, that is very easy to see, typically leads increase 300%. So in other words, if you're getting 5 leads a week on your website right now, 5 qualified leads a week, you're probably going to get about 15 if you add a pricing estimator, which is crazy. I mean, that's nuts. And so this is what's possible when you're willing to give buyers what they want. And I think it's going to be table stakes that businesses have these estimators on their website in the future. One of the biggest reasons is because of AI agents. You're going to send your AI agent out to do your dirty work for you, and you're going to say, hey, I want you to find me the top 5 pool companies in Richmond, Virginia, and I want you to come back. I want you to like research all of them, and based on all the different qualities of what constitutes a good pool company, I want you to come back and make these 5 recommendations. I want you to have at least 3 general estimates for me, and then I want you to tell me which one of the 3 you would like for me or you'd recommend that I call. Like, that is the future of the way many of us make important decisions. We're going to have agents do the dirty work, and then we get to do like the work on the end. And a lot of people right now, as I say that, Denise, they'd be like, Marcus, that's crazy. I'm never
No,
gonna.
I do it.
Yeah.
I don't have an AI. I need one, but I do that. I mean, if I'm going to make any kind of a decision, it can be a fairly small one, and I'm just curious, or a good sized one. I need a new car. My car died. She's sitting, my poor Range Rover. There comes a point where there's just no point in trying to repair them anymore, and I've reached that point. Poor Bertha. But I know, I love that car. Now I'm looking, what's new, what's up? Because, this thing's a little bit elderly, and I will tell you straight out, I'll drive my cars until they do die. I'm not one of those people that buys one every few years. To me, that's just silly. But now I'm going on a hunt where's the best, where's my car? What does it have? What kind of shape is it in? Because I always buy a 2-year-old car. And again, I'm just not stupid enough to buy a new car every 2 years. I'm just not going to do it. But there's so many ways that AI can, listen, I'll see something, oh, that's kind of neat. Then I'll go to Perplexity or Chat or Amazon and start doing comparisons. I've used Amazon for years for comparisons.
Yeah, Amazon does the big five really well. If you look at a product page for Amazon, they I literally have each one of the big five. They have a bunch of cost and price information. The problems information comes where you see the FAQs and the reviews where people talk about, hey, here's what could go wrong, what went wrong, etc. They have a ton of comparisons. They'll compare, that product with other products. Of course, they got a ton of reviews, and they've got best as in like, they give it starred rankings and whatnot. It's like this is exactly what buyers want. It's the perfect. This is why Amazon is so extraordinarily popular, is because they mix all the big five. And a lot of companies, even still listening to this right now, Denise, are like, I don't know if there's any way I could talk about those things. Listen, you could. You have to if you want to become the most known and trusted voice in your market. I promise. That's what you're going to have to do. And this is your way to do it. You cannot say what everybody else is saying online and expect to become the most known and trusted brand. Not going to happen. You got to be willing to say what others aren't willing to say. You got to be willing to show with video what others aren't willing to show. You got to be willing to sell in ways others aren't willing to sell. And I would add on this, and we talk about this in the book too, of course, you got to be more human than others are willing to be. All four things. And if you do those four things, say, show, sell, and be more human, then your competitors, you're going to resonate. You're going to become that most known and trusted brand.
Why be more human? I mean, I don't understand any other way of living, but what do you mean by that? What are you seeing that makes you say this is important? Be more human.
It's quite interesting. We've gotten to the era where the personal brand is becoming much more important than the company brand. I'll give you like a silly example. If I said to your listeners, do you know who Kylie Jenner is? Are you familiar with her? Probably 90+%
No.
say, yeah. Let's say at least I've heard of her, right? Because she's
I have no idea.
Okay, well, Kylie Jenner is one of the Kardashians. Okay?
Oh, well, see, there you lost me right there.
Right. She's one of the Kardashians, right? Well, I don't like watch her stuff, but I know who she is. But if I said to someone, does anybody know the name of her makeup line? Less than 50% of the people that knew who she was would know her makeup line. But her makeup line's worth $1 billion. That's why she was the youngest self-made billionaire. And this is one of those things where personal brand has become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, you as a business leader have a choice. You can make just the business the brand, and that's fine. Or you can make the business a brand, but you can also grow a personal brand. If I said to anybody here, what are the business brands that you religiously follow on social media? You might have less than a handful, if that. But if I said to you, are there any individuals you follow religiously on social media? Most would say, oh yeah, I listen to this person, I listen to this person, I listen to this person. That's how it works. And so we connect with people. We buy, though, ultimately from the brand. And so this is the thing now. You have to find ways to put yourself out there and create that human connection with your audience. And it manifests in different ways. I mean, it could be something as simple as instead of sending a basic text-based email from your sales team before a sales appointment, you send a video-based email where you're introducing yourself and they get to see your face and hear your voice, and they get to know the person that is essentially going to ask them for their money at some point. Like, that is, to me, a no-brainer. And I told my sales guys for my swimming pool company for a long time now, I said, if this customer doesn't recognize you walking up their driveway, hasn't heard your voice and seen your face and learned from you previously, then you have failed them. They shouldn't see you the first time when you shake their hand. They should feel like they already know you. That's the whole idea, right? We buy from those we know, like, and trust. That phrase has, been around forever. It will always be true. And I think as the world becomes more digital and as AI becomes more prevalent, it's going to have this unique effect of helping us in many ways, hurting us in other ways. Some are going to use it to connect on a deeper human level. Some are going to use it and they're actually going to disconnect even further. So I would just remind everyone, it's like, use the technology to make those connections. Create the videos about the team, show the behind the scenes. I mean, there's all these little things that we can do to really make that very, very unique connection.
I'm so glad you said behind the scenes because, as you know, you've been on a pre-interview with me, and that's why we're here. But I always do a pre-interview, and I've often said, about halfway through it, and we could have just recorded this and called it good because we go deep into who you are, what you want to talk about, what you bring to the show. And it occurred to me the other day after reading your book, because I read these books 2.5 times, by the way, sometimes 3 times. When it lands on my doorstep, I look at it, and it may be a month out before I'm going to actually have you on my show. So I'll put sticky notes in it. It's like, come back to this, come back to this. And then about a month before, I will review it, which means I'm really reading it this time. More sticky notes, more index cards. And then the weekend before, this weekend, guess what I was reading? Your book. And I went, huh. And my little brain was just fizzling all over the place. And I was writing down more notes, more notes, more notes. And one of them is reviews. Reviews are so important, but just having the conversations, whether I'm never going to be on camera. I never have been. I never will be, but people know my voice.
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable with that. I've been doing this for long enough that people know who I am. But the more I started taking notes, I went, okay, now I have to read this a 4th time. So I'm blaming you.
Well, but you I'm sure you hear crazy things about podcasting in terms of how it connects on a human level.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, I remember having a podcast. I don't have a personal one right now, and I love podcasts, by the way. I mean, I just think they're incredible as a human connection tool. I had one at one time for, I don't know, it was a few years. This was probably 10 years ago. And I had this, and this sounds like a really kind of crazy story, but it's fine. Lady comes up to me at an event and she says, Marcus. I'm like, hi. She says, you were with me in the shower this morning. And I said, oh my goodness. How's that? She says, I
See, I
listened
know
to
what she's talking about, but
Yes.
anybody else will be going, oh God.
Yes. She's like, I listened to your podcast in the shower. And then we laughed it off, right? It was such a funny way to introduce. I thought it was hilarious. But that's the power. I remember having people say, hey, Marcus, you were with me on my hike up the mountain the other day.
Oh,
That's powerful. And I know you've heard those things too, Denise, right? So it's like, that is the beauty of that human connection. And so if someone ever did meet you in real life, they're going to have that sense of like, I know Denise, right? I've heard her having conversations for years. I trust her. She has that Southern charm and she's just got this nice energy. It's like, yeah. And even if they haven't seen you, in your case, like they still feel that connection because you've given them the ability outside of just text alone.
and thank you for saying that. And you're right. That's a lot of what I hear. And you will also hear me say podcasting is marketing 101. It gives you the opportunity to share you, your business, your culture.
Mm.
Get out there, start talking.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep. Yep, very much with you on that one. It's a powerful thing to do, and so, you might need to find what works for you, but the key is you commit to it for more than, let's say, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, or whatever. If you don't do something for 90 days, like really hard, like all in hard, there's just no way you could even tell if it's going to work yet. And it's not like these things are getting easier. If you're going to start a YouTube channel, if you're going to start a podcast, if you're going to start to get really serious on LinkedIn, like I'm very serious on LinkedIn. I've got a decent LinkedIn following. I get good traction, but a lot of people don't realize I have posted 4 to 5 times a week, every single week for, 4 years. And these 5 years, I don't know, maybe it's more than, I don't know. It's like a couple thousand, posts at this point. It takes time to get this traction. And so you've got to commit to it. I'm sure, Denise, for you with this pod, it was like at first you were like, this is kind of a slow grind, but you're like, I'm doing it. if anything, for me, and then eventually the other stuff will happen. And then you start to get the momentum. And just like you were telling me before, now you've got a really big demand. You've got people that are like, trying to book you to next year. And you're just like, I can't do that far out. But that's because you've built that snowball effect over the course of time. You stuck with it.
And consistency. Back to
Mhm.
what you were just saying, Marcus, if you're not going to be consistent with it, don't start. Go do something else that you trust yourself to do, to actually do. But if you're going to be a podcaster and you're not showing up when you say you're going to show up, you just wasted time, money, and energy.
Yeah. I mean, that is such a big deal. It's like there's plenty of days where I have no idea of what I'm going to say or write. And I had to force my brain to find the value, the thing that I need to share. But I'm always on the lookout. And I'm not sitting there feeling sorry for myself because, oh, I've got writer's block. Well, get over it because you committed to the consistency of doing this at least 4 to 5 days a week. So that's what I do. It's what I do. It's a religion. It's like breathing. I know I'm going to do it. I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to do it. And then even when it's hard, I'm like, yeah, but I'm just going to push through because that's the commitment that I've made to myself.
Exactly. And listen, I do the same as you. I mean, I will start what I'm going to call an epic blank page. And my brain just goes zip, and that's the end of it. I have to leave. I leave the room. I go outside. I go stick my face in the refrigerator and cool down. I walk the dog. I find ways to just go, I'm coming back to this. I'm not leaving it, but I am coming back to it. But you read somebody else's work, go listen to somebody's work on YouTube. There are so many different ways and arenas that you can find amazing things to talk about. Just pay attention.
That's
It's not all about you. Trust me on this. It's not about you.
Yeah, that's the big one. Is you just have to really be in a constant state of noticing, of being aware of whatever that thing is that you do. Because everything that happens to us is a potential story. And I mean, even when my early days of being a pool guy, when I started doing video in the late 2009, I guess I started doing video, and I would walk on a job site, Denise, and I would just look around. I'd say, what's every question I would have right now if I was a pool shopper? Well, why did they choose that fence? Or why did they design the patio like that? Why did they choose that color? Like each one of those, that's a video. That's an article, whatever it is. It's like that was the choice that I had. That's the choice that I made. And that awareness, that constant awareness is always key.
And I love that. And the reason I love that, my sister has a huge backyard. I think I would call it an acre of stuff back there. And she has a vintage home. It's quite elderly and it's beautiful, but the backyard was just horrible. And it had gotten really broken down over the years. And she kind of went through what you just talked about. She walked back in her own backyard like it wasn't her home. And she started saying, what is that fence even doing over there? Why do I need that? And, they have done so much in that backyard. And I'm every other day, where are the pictures? I want to see the pictures because it's a fascinating journey. But she had to do exactly what you're talking about. She had to go look at it with somebody else's eyes and with curiosity, because there's a lot of people who have owned and lived in that house over the last 100 or so years. What were their
Yeah,
stories?
yeah, that is exactly the mindset.
And what they've done with it is like, oh, and I don't swim. And yeah, it's not going to happen. I never use the word can't, but I don't swim.
Good way to put it. It's a good adage for life right there. I don't say can't. I just
Yeah.
say I
Yeah.
don't.
I'm not going to even use flippers, not going in there. But it's just, and I'm fascinated by her mindset instead of just going, okay, going to somebody who's going to do all the landscaping and lay the pavers and do this and that. She told them what to do. She guided it the whole way, but it took her a few years because she had to look at the history of it. And again, why? All the whys. Some of it she still doesn't understand, but it doesn't matter anymore. She's doing her thing. But it's amazing what she put herself through to figure out what needed to happen next.
Yeah. Yep. Perfect description for it.
Before I let you go, and I'm at page 15, the 4 pillars of a known and trusted brand. Let's cover that real quick.
Yeah, you got to, and I did mention these earlier. You got to be willing to say online what others aren't willing to say.
Right, and I wanted to go back. You're right.
Yeah, you got to be willing to show with video what others aren't willing to show. You got to be willing to sell in ways others aren't willing to sell, and you got to be more human. That really, the whole payoff of Endless Customers, the book, is that it's a system that if you follow, you'll become the most known and trusted brand within your market, whatever your market is, whether it's local or national. But those 4 things, even though they sound so simple, so few do them. And if you're willing to do them, which means you have to disconform, you have to be different than those in your industry. And we'll show you exactly how to do it in the book. But if you do that, you're going to stand out, you're going to start to build traction, and you're going to build that known and trusted brand.
Exactly. What inspired you to write this book, Endless Customers, and how does it build on your previous work? They ask, you answer.
Well, I just saw because of the changes of that AI was inducing. And because now we had this world where it wasn't just customers in Google, but it was customers Google plus AI and AI recommendations and people not sure what that meant for producing content online and how to even, show up for AI and be recommended by AI and this whole just AI conversation in general in terms of connecting with our audience. It had to be written for that reason. And I think in terms of an actual blueprint for people, because that's what everybody needs. This one is going to help you, and you're going to have practical, tactical takeaways that you're going to be able to immediately apply to your business.
And that leads me to my next and last question, because we are running out of time. You need to come back in the new year because you've got so much more to share. And you can't tell me no because I asked you on the radio. But just so you know. But what are the most common mistakes that organizations make when they're trying to implement your framework, and how can they overcome it? We've talked about AI. It sticks for a lot of people. They're like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't know enough about it. But what are the most common mistakes you're seeing?
Biggest mistakes is first they don't do what it takes to get the buy-in from the team. So like some type of initial training workshop where everybody gets on the same page and it's like, okay, we're going to be the most known and trusted brand. We agree to that. That means we're going to break rules and we're going to say and show and sell in ways that nobody's ever done it before, right? The mindset of the company, especially the leadership team, that's a really big key. And then you got to get people that actually own it. Getting someone that owns video, someone that owns some of the writing content, instead of just, getting people to, delving it out. This is a big mistake. You got to start thinking much more like a media company. And so that is a mistake that we see people make all the time. We see folks oftentimes, they create obstacles that they shouldn't create with this. They just overcomplicate it. And all of a sudden they make every piece of content like you're writing the Declaration of Independence. It's like, no, it's just a video. It's just an article, guys. Let's not overthink this. And so that is also probably the other big mistake.
Get out there. People want to hear from you. That's what I'm hearing from you. They want to hear from you. You don't need to be, perfect looking or your pitch is perfect. You just need to get out there. People are going to pick what little snippet they heard or read. They're probably not going to get your whole message in one sitting if they ever do. But you're going to accidentally or purposely say that one thing that people are like, oh, and they write it down and then go take action.
That's right. Yeah.
Listen, Marcus, it has been a real pleasure having you on the podcast today. So thank you for sharing your insights and your actionable advice with our listeners. But before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to leave our audience with? Any final thoughts or words of encouragement? And for those who want to connect with you or learn more about your work and find your book, where's the best place for them to find you online?
Yeah, just get the book. I think you're gonna find I wrote it with this mindset, which is it's dumb not to dumb it down. In other words, you're gonna read that and you're gonna say, "This is so obvious. This makes so much sense." That's my promise to you. If you read Endless Customers, and of course you can pick it up at endlesscustomers.com, Amazon, other bookstores. You can pick it up there. And you can find me on LinkedIn. Message me directly if you have any questions. That's the best place to to hit me up, or just go to my website, marcussheridan.com. Maybe I'll see you at an event somewhere around the world. I speak full time, so I'd love to see you at one of these conferences. But Denise, it's been a real pleasure.
Well, thank you. Is there going to be an audio version?
But yes, the audio version is out for endless customers.
Oh, I did not find that. I'll have to go. I like to have the book in front of me. Sometimes I'll go get the Kindle version and the audio. And I may have all three of them running at the same time. It's how my brain works.
I love that. And I love that people will read it and listen to it at the same time. It's a super efficient, cool way to do it.
It is, and it works. Well, listen, everybody, thank you all for tuning in today. And if you found value in this conversations, and I know you did, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share the episode with everyone who could benefit from building trust and driving sales in their business. And be sure to check out Marcus Sheridan's Endless Customers for a proven system to become the market leader. So until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep serving your customers with honesty and transparency. I'm Denise Griffitts, and I will see you each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Marcus, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.